Now that we have some of the housekeeping out of the way, let's finally get down to business and start to answer the question, what is ServiceNow? When people ask me what I do for a living, I typically struggle on a simple and concise answer. I say something along the lines of, I work with ServiceNow, which is an enterprise software as a service suite. If that person happens to be tech savvy, they generally follow up with, what does it do? That question is a little harder to answer. I generally start by saying that it can do anything. When they aren't satisfied with that response, I'll tell them that it can do all kinds of things, but is primarily used for processes that fall under the IT service management umbrella, like incident management, change management, and configuration management. It's also very easy to get custom applications up and running in little to no time at all. So, why am I telling you this? Well, it turns out explaining what ServiceNow is hard, especially to someone who isn't even in tech, or someone who's just starting out in the IT world. ServiceNow considers itself a unified, cloud-based application platform. Let's break this down a bit. Unified, meaning a single data model, so there's one database on the back end. Cloud-based, meaning the entire application is hosted in ServiceNow's data centers, so you don't have to worry about backups, networking, etc. And finally, application platform, meaning a framework of services that provide you with the tools to extend and build off of the existing platform. As a customer, you have access to the database, which means creating and or modifying existing tables. You have access to a plethora of tools for integrations to other systems, and you can build custom applications on the platform in no time at all. ServiceNow claims that it has over 4,400 customers, with nearly 800 of those being Forbes Global 2000 companies. So these are large enterprise customers. So you may be thinking, well, why should I even use ServiceNow? If I need to create an application, why not just tie in my in-house developers and my DevOps team and create a custom solution ourselves? Well, the answer to that question is time and resources. In the world of IT, providing solutions to your organization all comes down to how quickly and cost-effectively it can be accomplished. Could you provide the same solution to a custom application for a group of HR users in your organization without requiring additional ServiceNow licenses? Sure, but it'll take you a lot longer to create this custom application in-house than by simply developing it on the ServiceNow platform. Let's help solidify our understanding of why an organization would choose ServiceNow to build a custom application versus going with an in-house app team within the organization by going over an analogy. In this analogy, we'll say we've been tasked with producing cars. In order to produce the car, we'll need the following components. We'll need the engine, the transmission, the chassis, tires, and the body. To accomplish our goal, we have two options. The first option is to produce all of the required components ourselves, in-house. This would require opening manufacturing plants to produce these from raw materials like steel, aluminum, rubber, and so on. The second option is to purchase all of these components from independent manufacturers. Instead of making each component, we would strike deals with the suppliers to provide these components to us. Then all we would need to do is assemble them once all of the parts have arrived in our assembling plant. Let's look at these two options in more detail. In the first option, we'll have complete control over everything that happens. If the engine needs more cc's or the transmission needs to be geared slightly differently, we are able to accomplish this task easily and quickly since it's all done within house. However, the cost to create the manufacturing plants, pay salary workers, etc., is very high. It's true that once we've paid a lot of these fixed costs off, we may be able to produce cheaper components than buying them from a supplier, but this would take a long time. And the second option, we will be paying an increase of 5 to 10%, or a markup of 5 to 10% on each component, but the startup costs are substantially cheaper. In this option, we'll be leveraging what is called economies of scale. You can think of this as each manufacturer does exactly what they are meant to do with perfection. A tire manufacturer has the historical knowledge over the past 100 years, so they can craft the perfect tire, as opposed to the in-house way, where we would just be starting out with producing tires. In this analogy, creating the application from scratch is the in-house scenario, while the outsourcing scenario is going with ServiceNow for your custom application. In order to build an in-house application, you would need the following teams in place: the application developers, dev operations, the security team, disaster recovery, the performance team, etc. Depending on the scale of this application, the list could go on and on. While large organizations may have processes in place for each team, getting them all on the same page with an opening for your project is nearly impossible. What if the dev operations team is busy and they can't get to your requirements for 6 months? Maybe the app dev team is undergoing a huge upgrade to an existing system and they won't be free for another 8 months. It's these restrictions that make ServiceNow so appealing to CIOs. You're essentially outsourcing the majority of the work to ServiceNow while focusing on the pure business logic an application requires to fulfill its job. So let's quickly go over some of the fundamental benefits of using ServiceNow. Up first, we have availability, reliability, and scalability. Historically, ServiceNow has very high availability and handles scalability all for you. This is a huge benefit, and your DevOps team will thank you. Up next is secure. Security lies at the heart of the platform and is 27001 certified. It's also a single system of record, so all applications in ServiceNow share the same database. It uses multi-instance architecture, which means that it separates a customer's application nodes and database, so there is no commingling of customer data. Finally, it follows ITIL best practices, which is an industry standard on how to run an IT department. All of these combined makes ServiceNow very appealing to CIOs. Lastly, I want to quickly talk about the core technologies used in ServiceNow. ServiceNow uses the Apache Tomcat web server to serve up the web pages. It uses J2EE application servers, MySQL databases, and the Mozilla Rhino JavaScript engine. You don't need to know these technologies, but I find it beneficial from a learning perspective as to what are the core technologies that are powering the ServiceNow platform.